Everyone left this alien pet tea. The rain poured relentlessly against the windows of the abandoned intergalactic pet shelter, each drop a reminder of another second ticking away. Inside, huddled in the corner of her enclosure, a small creature with iridescent fur and 6 eyes blinked slowly at the empty hallway. She hadn't seen anyone in days, not since the evacuation order had been issued, and the shelter staff, all members of the Xylaxian species, had hurriedly packed up and fled the planet. That they'd taken most of the animals with them, of course. The valuable ones. The pure breeds. The ones with papers and pedigrees. But she was just another mixed breed rescue, found wandering the asteroid belts, too strange looking to be adoptable. Too much maintenance, they'd said. Too unpredictable. And now, as the facility's automatic systems began to fail one by one, she was completely alone. Well, almost alone. There were others like her, the leftover pets, the ones deemed too difficult or too expensive to transport. The unwanted ones. In the enclosures around her, she could hear their soft whimpers and calls, a symphony of abandoned souls. The creature designation number AX789 pressed her nose against the force field of her enclosure, watching as another emergency light flickered and died. The backup generators were failing. Soon, the environmental controls would shut down, and then, she didn't want to think about what would happen then. A sudden crash from somewhere in the building made her jump, her fur bristling with fear. But this sound was different from the usual creaks and groans of the dying facility. This sound was accompanied by voices. Human voices. Check every enclosure. There might still be animals in here. The voice was firm, determined. Different from the clinical tones of the Xylaxian staff. Got it? I'm picking up life signs on this level. Another voice, equally urgent. The creature's hearts began to race as flashlight beams cut through the darkness of the hallway. She'd seen humans before, of course. They'd started appearing more frequently in this sector over the past few years as their species began to expand into space. But the Xylaxians had always kept them at arm's length, viewing them as primitive newcomers to the galactic community. Now, though, as heavy boots thundered down the corridor and those flashlight beams drew closer, the creature felt something she hadn't experienced in days: hope. Here. This one's still active. A face appeared at her enclosure, a human face, eyes wide with concern behind a protective visor. The human was wearing some kind of environmental suit, but even through the layers of protection, the creature could sense something different about these beings. Where the Xylaxians had been cold and analytical, these humans radiated warmth? Emotion? She wasn't sure of the word, but something in her responded to it instinctively. Poor thing, another human appeared, this one carrying some kind of scanning device. They just left them here to die when the solar storms were approaching. Didn't even try to evacuate the non-essential animals. The anger in the human's voice was clear, even through the suit's audio system. The first human was already working on the enclosure's control panel. Life support's nearly gone in this section. We need to get them out now. There was a pause, then, hang on, little one. We're going to get you somewhere safe. The creature felt her fur ripple with anticipation as the human worked. She didn't understand everything they were saying, but their intent was clear. They were here to help. To save the unwanted ones, the ones everyone else had decided weren't worth the trouble. The force field flickered, then disappeared. For the first time in days, there was nothing between her and freedom. But instead of running, she found herself moving toward the human's outstretched hand. It was a moment of choice: trust or fear, hope or despair. Behind them, more humans were moving through the facility, their voices calling out to each other as they discovered more survivors. The creature could hear the sounds of other enclosures being opened, of other abandoned pets being rescued. But right now, her entire world had narrowed to that single outstretched hand. It's okay, the human said softly. We've got you. The creature took one step forward, then another. The facility's lights gave one final flicker and died completely, plunging everything into darkness except for the human's flashlights. In the distance, warning alarms began to blare. The solar storm was getting closer, its deadly radiation already starting to interfere with the remaining systems. Time was running out. For everyone, this was the moment. The creature looked up at the human's face, seeing her own reflection in the visor. 6 eyes blinked back at her, and in that reflection she saw something she'd never seen before in any of her previous caretaker's eyes. Genuine compassion. She made her decision. But as she moved to take that final step toward trust and salvation, a massive tremor shook the entire facility. The human's flashlights swung wildly as the floor beneath them bucked and heaved. The warning alarms reached a fever pitch, and through the windows the sky turned an ominous shade of red. The solar storm had arrived early. And they were still inside. Oh die except the humans. HFY story time seemed to slow as the creature watched the human's flashlight beam dance across the ceiling. Metal groaned around them, and somewhere in the distance, she heard the distinct sound of something vital breaking. The storm wasn't just early, it was far more intense than anyone had predicted. Everyone, emergency protocols now. The commanding voice cut through the chaos. Get the animals to the transport pods. We've got less than 10 minutes before this whole place comes down. The human nearest to the creature's enclosure didn't hesitate. In one fluid motion they scooped her up, cradling her against their environmental suit. The creature's initial instinct was to struggle. She'd never been handled this way before, but something about the gentle firmness of the hold made her relax instead. I've got you, little Star Walker, the human whispered, and despite the gravity of the situation, there was a warmth in their voice that made all 6 of the creature's eyes blink in surprise. Star Walker. Not AX-789. Not the specimen. The simple act of being given a real name, even in this moment of crisis, sparked something deep within her. They were running now, the humans' boots echoing against the metal floor as they sprinted through the darkened corridors. Other rescue team members were doing the same, each carrying or guiding different species of abandoned pets. The creature Star Walker now caught glimpses of familiar faces from neighboring enclosures. The crystalline arthropod that used to sing at night, the floating cloud of bioluminescent spores that changed color with its moods, the 6-legged feline descendant from the outer rim. None of them had been considered worth saving by their previous caretakers. But these humans were risking their lives to save them all. Another violent tremor rocked the facility, stronger than the last. The humans stumbled but managed to keep their balance, their grip on Star Walker never wavering. Through the facility's windows, the sky had turned from red to a deep, angry purple, a color that even Star Walker, with her enhanced vision, had never seen before. Primary exits blocked. Someone shouted ahead of them. The structural integrity in Section 4 is completely compromised. Secondary route, through the maintenance bay. The team leader's voice remained steady despite the urgency. Follow the green markers. Move. They changed direction, taking a sharp turn down a narrower corridor. The emergency lighting had failed completely now, leaving only the beams from the humans' flashlights to guide them. Star Walker could feel her rescuer's heartbeat through the environmental suit, rapid but controlled. These humans had trained for situations like this, she realized. They'd come prepared. The maintenance bay doors were sealed when they reached them, the electronic controls dead. 2 of the humans immediately stepped forward with some kind of cutting equipment, while others kept their flashlights trained on the work area. Star Walker watched in fascination as sparks flew from the metal, the humans working with a coordination that spoke of long practice. 5 minutes until total structural failure. Someone called out, reading from a handheld device. The storm's magnetic interference is accelerating the degradation of the support systems. The humans worked faster, their movements precise despite the pressure. Star Walker could sense the anxiety in the air, but it was different from the panic she'd felt when the Xylaxians had evacuated. This was focused, purposeful. These humans weren't just reacting, they were problem-solving. With a grinding screech, the doors finally gave way, revealing the maintenance bay beyond. It was a vast space filled with defunct service robots and repair equipment, and at the far end, Star Walker could see something that made her heart skip. A row of sleek transport pods, their hulls gleaming dully in the flashlight beams. But between them and those pods lay another challenge. The maintenance bay's floor had buckled under the structural stress, creating a maze of raised metal plates and exposed support beams. What should have been a straight sprint to safety had become an obstacle course. One at a time. The team leader ordered. Watch your footing and keep the animals secure. We didn't come this far to fail now. They began moving forward, picking their paths carefully through the twisted metal. Star Walker's rescuer kept up a quiet stream of reassuring words as they navigated the obstacles. Almost there, Star Walker. You're doing great. Just hold on a little longer. The creature found herself relaxing further into the human's hold, despite the chaos around them. There was something about their voice, about the way they treated her not as cargo to be transported but as a living being worthy of comfort, that touched her deeply. Another tremor shook the facility, this one accompanied by the screech of tearing metal from somewhere above them. Star Walker looked up just in time to see a section of the ceiling begin to collapse. Look out! Someone shouted, but they were only halfway across the maintenance bay. There was nowhere to run. The human holding Star Walker didn't hesitate. In one smooth motion they curled their body around her, using their environmental suit as a shield. Starwalker felt herself being pressed protectively against their chest as debris rained down around them. For a moment, everything was chaos and noise. Then gradually the dust began to settle. The human's grip on Starwalker hadn't loosened, but she could feel them breathing heavily from the exertion. Status report. The team leader's voice cut through the settling dust. Is everyone okay? One by one voices called back from different parts of the maintenance bay. Starwalker's rescuer managed to stand, still keeping her safely cradled. We're okay here, they called out. Starwalker's safe. The use of her new name, even in this moment of crisis, made all 6 of her eyes blink rapidly. The human had remembered even now, but their problems weren't over. The ceiling collapse had created new obstacles in their path, and the facility's groaning had taken on a higher pitch that made Starwalker's sensitive ears twitch with anxiety. 2 minutes. The warning came from somewhere ahead. The storm's about to hit full force. Through the maintenance bay's reinforced windows, Starwalker could see that the purple sky had begun to swirl with patterns of electric blue, beautiful, but deadly. The solar storm was reaching its peak, and when it did, no amount of shielding would protect them. They were so close to the transport pods, yet still so far. And time was running out. The human holding Starwalker took a deep breath, adjusting their grip to ensure her comfort even as they prepared for the final push towards safety. Around them, other team members were doing the same, each protecting their rescued charges as they faced the last leg of their journey. But something else was happening too, something that made Starwalker's fur stand on end. The facility's remaining systems, overtaxed by the storm's electromagnetic interference, were beginning to fail catastrophically. The very air seemed to crackle with building energy. The human team leader's voice crackled over their comm system. The facility's containment field is collapsing. If we don't get to those pods in the next 60 seconds. They didn't finish the sentence. They didn't need to. Everyone knew what would happen if they were still inside when the containment field failed. Starwalker looked up at her rescuer's face through their visor. In the reflected light of the storm, she could see determination in their eyes, mixed with something else, something that none of her previous caretakers had ever shown her. Hope. Pure, unshakable hope. The human met her gaze and somehow managed to smile despite everything. Together, they said softly. We're getting out of here together. The storm raged outside, the facility crumbled around them, and the clock ticked down. But in that moment, Starwalker felt something she'd never experienced before. Absolute trust in another being. Now they just had to survive the next 60 seconds. 60 seconds. In the grand scheme of the universe, it was barely a blink. But right now, as Starwalker clung to her human rescuer's environmental suit, each second felt like an eternity. The air itself seemed to be alive with crackling energy, the facility's failing containment field creating visible ripples of blue-white light that danced across the walls. Move as a unit. The team leader's voice was steady despite the chaos. The field collapse will trigger a chain reaction. We need to reach the pods before the first wave hits. Starwalker's rescuer began moving forward, each step calculated despite their speed. Around them, other team members did the same, forming a coordinated line as they navigated the treacherous path of twisted metal and fallen debris. The animals they carried remained surprisingly calm, as if they too understood that their survival depended on these next crucial moments. 45 seconds. A high-pitched whine filled the air as more systems began to fail. Through the windows, the storm's purple-blue light had intensified to near-blinding levels. Starwalker's sensitive eyes could detect patterns in the chaos, deadly beautiful swirls of solar radiation that would reduce the facility to atoms if they didn't reach the shielded transport pods in time. The first pod is ready. Someone called from ahead. Loading sequence initiated. Starwalker could see it now. The nearest transport pod's hatch was sliding open, its interior illuminated by soft emergency lighting. But they were still too far away, and the path between them and safety was becoming more unstable by the second. 30 seconds. A violent tremor shook the maintenance bay, stronger than any before. Starwalker felt her rescuer stumble, but they recovered quickly, their grip never faltering. The human's determination radiated through their protective suit, a tangible force that somehow made Starwalker feel safer despite everything. The containment field is cascading. The warning came through static-filled comms. Starting from the upper levels. As if to confirm this, a tremendous crash echoed from somewhere above them. The ceiling was beginning to disintegrate, not from physical damage this time, but from the very atoms being torn apart by the storm's intensity. 20 seconds. They were closer now, close enough that Starwalker could see inside the first transport pod. Other team members were already loading their rescued animals into secure compartments, each designed to accommodate different species' needs. The pod's shielding was visible as a subtle shimmer around its hull, their only hope of surviving what was coming. But something was wrong. Starwalker could feel it through her fur, an instinct honed by years of space survival. The energy patterns in the air were shifting, becoming more erratic. The storm wasn't just destroying the facility's containment field, it was feeding off it, growing stronger with each system failure. 15 seconds. The field is collapsing faster than predicted. Someone shouted. We're looking at total failure in 10 seconds, not 30. Starwalker felt her rescuers' heart rate spike at this news, but their movements remained controlled. They were 3/4 of the way to the pod now, but the final stretch was the most dangerous. The maintenance bay's floor had completely buckled here, creating a near-vertical climb over twisted metal. 10 seconds. Time seemed to slow as Starwalker watched other team members scramble up the makeshift slope, their rescued animals secured safely against their suits. Her rescuer began the climb, moving carefully but quickly. Each handhold had to be tested, one slip would be disastrous. 9 seconds. The facility's remaining lights flickered and died, leaving only the storm's otherworldly glow and the humans' flashlights. The darkness made the climb even more treacherous, shadows dancing across the twisted metal landscape. 8 seconds. They were halfway up the slope when Starwalker's enhanced hearing picked up a sound that made all 6 of her eyes widen in terror, the distinctive crack of metal giving way under stress. 7 seconds. The slope's collapsing. The team leader's warning came just as the section of floor beneath Starwalker and her rescuer began to shift. The human's grip on a handhold tightened, their other arm holding Starwalker securely against their chest. 6 seconds. In that moment, Starwalker made a decision. She could see the next stable handhold just above them, too far for her rescuer to reach while holding her. But with her unique physiology she could help. She began to extend one of her retractable limbs, normally used for zero-gravity navigation. 5 seconds. The human seemed to understand instantly. Despite never having worked with her species before, they recognized what she was trying to do. Their grip on her shifted slightly, giving her the freedom to move while still keeping her secure. 4 seconds. Starwalker's extra limb stretched upward, wrapping around the stable handhold. She could feel the strength in this part of her anatomy, strength that had once helped her survive alone in the asteroid belts. Now it might help save them both. 3 seconds. The slope beneath them gave way completely. For a heart-stopping moment, they were suspended only by Starwalker's grip and the human's single handhold. Around them, pieces of the facility were beginning to dissolve as the containment field's collapse reached their level. 2 seconds. Starwalker pulled with all her might as her rescuer pushed upward. They moved as one, a perfect collaboration between species who had only met minutes ago but whose survival now depended entirely on trusting each other. 1 second. They were almost at the top of the slope. The transport pod's hatch was just feet away. But the storm's full fury had arrived, and the very air around them was beginning to shimmer with deadly energy. The containment field's collapse had reached the maintenance bay. 0. The universe seemed to hold its breath. Starwalker could see the wave of destruction approaching, a wall of purple-blue energy that consumed everything in its path. Her rescuers saw it too. They were out of time. In that final fraction of a second, as the wave of energy rushed toward them, Starwalker looked up at her human rescuer. Through their visor, she could see their eyes, and in them she saw not fear, but absolute determination. What happened next would change everything. In that suspended moment between survival and destruction, Starwalker felt something extraordinary happen. The containment field's collapse had released not just energy, but something else, something that had been hidden within the facility's walls all along. As the wave of destruction approached, ancient emergency protocols buried deep within the building's core suddenly activated. Time didn't slow down, it stopped. The purple-blue energy wave froze mid-surge, suspended like a snapshot of apocalypse. Starwalker's rescuer noticed it too, their body tensing in confusion as the deadly force that should have consumed them simply paused. What's happening? The team leader's voice crackled through the comms, heavy with disbelief. This isn't normal containment field behavior. Starwalker's fur bristled with recognition. She'd seen something like this before long ago, in the deepest reaches of space where she'd first been found. The shimmering patterns in the frozen energy wave matched ancient markings she'd glimpsed on derelict ships and abandoned space stations, artifacts of a civilization far older than the Xylaxians. The human holding her seemed to sense her recognition. Starwalker? What is it? Before she could try to communicate what she knew, the facility's dead systems suddenly hummed back to life. but not with their usual electronic buzz. This was different. Older. The walls themselves began to glow with symbols identical to the ones in Starwalker's memories. Unknown energy signature detected. Someone called out from near the transport pod. It's rewriting the storm's particle patterns. The team leader's voice cut through the chaos. Everyone hold position. Something's happening to the facility's core systems. Starwalker watched in amazement as lines of light began spreading across the maintenance bay's walls, forming intricate patterns that pulsed with a soft, golden glow. The frozen wave of destruction started to change color, shifting from its deadly purple blue to the same warm gold. But with this mysterious intervention came a new problem. The transport pods, their only means of escape, were starting to power down, their systems incompatible with whatever ancient technology had awakened. The pod shields are failing. The warning came from the team's technical specialist. This energy field is interfering with our tech. We need to get out of here before dash. They never finished the sentence. The golden light suddenly intensified, and Starwalker felt something she'd never experienced before, a pull not physical but temporal, as if time itself was being stretched around them. Her rescuer's grip tightened protectively. Stay with me, Starwalker. Whatever this is, we're facing it together. The humans' words carried a weight beyond their literal meaning. In the short time since their meeting, they'd formed a bond that transcended species, a trust born of shared survival. Now, as ancient forces beyond their understanding transformed the world around them, that bond was about to be tested in ways neither could have imagined. The golden light began to coalesce, forming shapes that defied normal spacetime. Through the facility's windows, Starwalker could see the solar storm still raging, but it seemed distant now, separated from them by layers of this mysterious energy. The facility's original purpose, Starwalker suddenly realized, though she had no way to communicate this complex thought to her human companions. This wasn't just a pet shelter, it was something far older, repurposed by the Xylaxians who had never fully understood what they'd claimed. The symbols on the walls were becoming more distinct, and with growing amazement, Starwalker recognized them as variations of markings on her own fur patterns that had always been dismissed as random mutations by her previous caretakers. She wasn't just another stray. She was connected to this place, to this ancient technology that had chosen this moment to reveal itself. The human team's comms crackled with urgent exchanges. The pod systems are completely offline. We've got multiple temporal anomalies forming. The storm's energy is being redirected, but where? Starwalker could feel her rescuer's heart racing through their environmental suit. The human was scared, they all were, but there was something else in their posture. Curiosity. Wonder. The very qualities that made humans different from the Xylaxians who had abandoned this place. The golden light suddenly contracted, forming a spherical chamber around them, all humans, rescued animals, and the remains of the facility's maintenance bay. Outside this bubble, the solar storm raged impotently, its deadly energy continuously transformed by whatever force they had awakened. Look. Someone pointed to the center of their golden sanctuary. The light there was taking shape, forming what appeared to be some kind of control interface, but unlike anything the humans had ever seen. Starwalker felt a pull toward it, an instinct as deep as her survival skills in the asteroid belts. The markings on her fur were glowing now, resonating with the ancient technology. Her rescuer noticed immediately. The patterns, they're the same as the walls. The team leader moved closer, scanner in hand. These readings, they're off the charts. This isn't just some advanced technology, it's like the fabric of space-time is being rewritten around us. But they had bigger problems. The golden bubble protecting them was starting to fluctuate, its edges becoming unstable. Whatever force they had awakened was struggling to maintain this pocket of safety against the storm's fury. The temporal field is collapsing. The technical specialist's voice was urgent. We've got maybe 2 minutes before dash. A sudden surge of energy cut through the bubble, causing everyone to stagger. The ancient interface flickered, its symbols rearranging themselves in increasingly complex patterns. Starwalker knew what she had to do. Somehow she had always known, though the knowledge had laid dormant until this moment. But reaching the interface meant leaving the safety of her rescuer's arms, and she wasn't sure they would understand or let her go. The human holding her looked down, meeting her six-eyed gaze. In that moment, something passed between them, an understanding deeper than words. The human had saved her life by trusting her when everyone else had abandoned her. Now she had to ask for that trust again. You need to do something, don't you? The human asked softly, even as another energy surge rocked their sanctuary. Something only you can do. Starwalker blinked all 6 eyes in confirmation, her fur patterns glowing brighter in response to the interface's call. Around them, the golden bubble protecting them from the storm's fury began to crack. They were out of time. Whatever choice they were going to make had to be made now. The human looked at their team leader, then back at Starwalker. Everything hung in the balance, their lives, the ancient technology, and secrets that had lain dormant for millennia. What happened next would either save them all or doom them completely. And it all depended on whether a human could trust an abandoned alien pet with the fate of everyone in that room. Trust. Such a simple word for such a monumental concept. In that moment, as the golden bubble protecting them continued to fracture, Starwalker's rescuer made a decision that would echo through time itself. They looked at their team leader, nodded once, and then gently set Starwalker down. "Go," they said softly. "Do what you need to do." The other humans watched in tense silence as Starwalker moved toward the glowing interface. Her fur patterns were now pulsing in perfect synchronization with the ancient symbols on the walls, each step leaving traces of golden light in her wake. Another surge rocked their sanctuary, this one strong enough to send several humans stumbling. The technical specialist's voice was tight with urgency. 30 seconds until total field collapse. Starwalker reached the interface just as another crack appeared in their protective bubble. Up close, the ancient technology was even more beautiful, and more familiar. The patterns weren't just similar to her markings. They were an exact match, as if she had been created specifically to interface with this system. Or perhaps, she realized with sudden clarity, she hadn't been created at all. Perhaps she had been born this way because her species had evolved alongside this ancient technology, serving as living keys to its power. The Xylaxians, in their cold efficiency, had never bothered to look beyond their initial classification of her as a simple space stray. But humans had looked at her and seen not just what she was but what she could be. They had risked everything to save her, and now she had the chance to return that trust. 20 seconds. Starwalker extended all of her limbs, including the extra ones she used for zero-gravity navigation. The interface responded immediately, golden light flowing from her fur patterns into the ancient machinery. Knowledge flooded her consciousness, not just of how to operate the system, but of its true purpose. The facility wasn't just a shelter. It was a nexus point, one of many scattered throughout the galaxy by her ancestors. Each was designed to protect life itself from the kind of stellar events that could wipe out entire systems. The Xylaxians had built their pet shelter on top of it, never understanding the true power that lay dormant beneath their feet. 15 seconds. "Look at the storm." Someone gasped. Through the facility's windows, they could see the solar storm's fury being drawn toward them, but not in a way that threatened destruction. The deadly energy was being channeled, transformed by the ancient technology that Starwalker was now connected to. 10 seconds. The golden bubble around them began to expand rather than collapse, its light taking on a deeper, more vibrant hue. Starwalker could feel the power flowing through her, not overwhelming but natural, like remembering how to walk after a long sleep. 5 seconds. "The temporal readings are stabilizing," the technical specialist called out. "Whatever she's doing, it's working." Starwalker's rescuer stepped forward, their hand reaching out but not touching her, respecting her connection to the interface. "You can do this, Starwalker. We believe in you." 3 seconds. The facility's original systems fully activated, revealing their true form. The walls seemed to disappear, replaced by a view of space itself, not just as it appeared now, but as it had looked thousands of years ago when her ancestors had built this place. 2 seconds. Starwalker made the final connection, her consciousness expanding to encompass the full scope of the Nexus Point's power. She could see everything now, the pattern of stellar events that had triggered this storm, the way it could be redirected, and most importantly, how to protect not just themselves but every living thing in this sector of space. 1 second. Time stopped again, but this time Starwalker was in control. She could feel the storm's energy, taste its patterns, understand its purpose in the greater cosmic dance. It wasn't meant for destruction, it was meant for transformation. 0. Light exploded outward from the facility in a controlled wave of golden energy. The solar storm's deadly force was caught, channeled, and transformed. Where there had been chaos, there was now harmony. Where there had been destruction, there was now creation. The humans watched in awe as the purple-blue fury of the storm transformed into a spectacular aurora that stretched across the entire sky. Starwalker's consciousness touched each particle, each wave of energy, guiding them into new patterns that would protect rather than destroy. But she wasn't finished. There was one more thing she had to do. The knowledge flowing through her from the ancient interface showed her something else, something that explained why she had been found alone in the asteroid belts. She wasn't the last of her kind, as the Xylaxians had assumed. She was a guardian, placed there deliberately, waiting for the right moment and the right allies to help her fulfill her purpose. And now, with the help of these humans who had seen her worth when everyone else had abandoned her, she could send out the call. Through the facility's transformed walls, they all watched as points of light began appearing in the distance, first one, then dozens, then hundreds. They were ships, but unlike any the humans had seen before. Each one pulsed with the same golden energy that now filled the facility, each one carrying beings with fur patterns that glowed like starwalkers. Her people had been waiting, scattered across the galaxy, maintaining the network of nexus points and watching for signs that the universe was ready for their return. Starwalker's connection to the ancient interface had just sent them that signal. The human team stood in stunned silence as the ships drew closer. Starwalker's rescuer stepped forward again, and this time they did reach out, gently placing their hand on her back as she maintained her connection to the interface. "You're not just a pet," they said softly. "You're their guardian." Starwalker blinked all 6 eyes in confirmation, but there was something else she needed to communicate. Using the interface's power, she projected a series of images into their minds, not just of who she was, but of what could be. The Xylaxians had seen her people as simple animals to be catalogued and controlled. But humans had proved themselves different. They had shown compassion, courage, and trust. They had risked everything to save those deemed unworthy by others. They were ready. As the golden ships drew closer and the transformed solar storm danced across the stars, Starwalker made her final decision. The age of hiding was over. It was time for her people to return, not as pets or specimens but as teachers and allies. And it had all started because a group of humans had chosen to save an abandoned alien pet that no one else thought was worth saving. But even as this realization dawned, something else was happening, something that would change everything they thought they knew about the universe and their place in it. The interface was showing Starwalker one last secret, one that would reshape the very foundation of human and alien relations forever. The interface's final revelation unfolded like a flower blooming in zero gravity, each petal a new layer of understanding. The images Starwalker shared with her human rescuers showed not just the past or present, but the intricate web of possibilities that connected them all. Her people hadn't just been watching humanity, they had been subtly guiding them, preparing them for this moment. Every stray alien pet found and sheltered by humans, every mysterious creature helped and healed, had been a test. Not of humanity's technology or power, but of their capacity for compassion, their willingness to help those different from themselves, their ability to see worth in the seemingly worthless. All this time, Starwalker's rescuer whispered, understanding dawning in their eyes, every abandoned animal we saved was part of something bigger, the team leader finished, their voice filled with wonder. The golden ships had taken up positions around the facility, their presence transforming the rescued pet shelter into the sacred space it had always been meant to be. Through the interface, Starwalker shared more. Her people had once been the guardians of peace throughout the galaxy, using their connection to the ancient nexus points to prevent catastrophes and foster understanding between species. But the rise of civilizations like the Xylaxians, who valued efficiency and control over compassion and connection, had forced them into hiding. They had scattered themselves across the stars, disguising their true nature, waiting for a species that would prove worthy of their knowledge and trust. A species that would save a strange-looking creature not because it was valuable, but because it needed help. A species that would risk everything to protect those others had abandoned. A species like humans. The other rescued animals in the facility were beginning to glow as well, their own hidden patterns emerging. They weren't all members of Starwalker's species, but they were all connected to the ancient network in their own ways, living pieces of a puzzle that had taken millennia to complete. Starwalker's rescuer knelt beside her, their environmental suit's visor now retracted since the facility's atmosphere had been restored by the ancient systems. For the first time she could see their face clearly, the warmth in their eyes, the gentle smile that had been hidden before. "What happens now?" they asked, though the answer was already unfolding around them. The golden ships were releasing smaller vessels, each one carrying beings that looked similar to Starwalker but with their own unique patterns. They moved with grace through the transformed facility, greeting the rescued animals not as pets but as fellow guardians who had completed their missions. Through the interface, Starwalker explained the choice that lay before humanity. Her people were offering an alliance, not as superior beings coming to uplift humanity, but as partners who had seen in humans the very qualities the galaxy needed most. The ability to care, to trust, to see beyond surface differences, to fight for those who couldn't fight for themselves. The human rescue team looked at each other, then at the magnificent ships hovering outside, then at the animals they had risked everything to save. In saving them, they had proven themselves ready for a role they had never imagined. "We accept," the team leader said simply, speaking not just for their team but with the quiet certainty that humanity would embrace this new chapter. Starwalker finally disconnected from the interface, her fur's glow dimming but not disappearing entirely. She turned to her rescuer, who had never doubted her even when everything seemed impossible. "You know," they said with a smile, "I think we're going to need a bigger pet shelter." The joke broke the tension, causing laughter to ripple through the group. But it was true in its way. The facility would be transformed into something new, a place where humans and Starwalker's people could work together to continue the mission of saving and protecting those in need across the galaxy. The other rescue team members were already talking excitedly about the possibilities, about how they could adapt their skills and experience to this larger purpose. The technical specialist was deep in conversation with one of Starwalker's people, comparing notes on different forms of space-time manipulation. The medical officer was examining the restored facility with new eyes, seeing how it could serve as both a shelter and a training center for future guardians. But Starwalker had one more thing to share. She turned to her rescuer and projected a final image, a vision of the two of them working together, traveling the stars, finding and helping others who had been abandoned or forgotten. Not as pet and owner, but as equal partners in a mission that would reshape the galaxy. "Partners?" her rescuer asked, offering their hand. Starwalker extended one of her limbs, touching it to their palm. The connection sparked with golden light, not from the ancient technology this time, but from something far more powerful. The simple trust between two beings who had chosen to believe in each other when it mattered most. Above them, the transformed solar storm continued its dance across the stars, no longer a threat but a celebration of what was possible when compassion and courage combined. The rescued animals, now revealed as fellow guardians, were being reunited with their own people, each reunion a testament to the success of their long mission. And in every corner of the galaxy, other beings who had been disguised as pets began to reveal their true nature to the humans who had saved them. The age of hiding was over. The time of partnership had begun. All because a group of humans had looked at an abandoned alien pet and seen not what it appeared to be, but what it could be. Had offered not judgment but trust. Had given not just shelter, but hope. The stars seemed brighter somehow as Starwalker and her human partner stepped forward to begin their new journey together. The galaxy was vast, and there were many more beings out there waiting to be saved, many more connections waiting to be made. But now they would face it all together, humans and guardians, rescuers and rescued, all part of something greater than themselves. A network of compassion spanning the stars, proving that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe isn't technology or efficiency or control. Sometimes, it's simply the choice to help those others have left behind. And that choice, as Starwalker and her human companions had proven, could change everything. The end.